Hello, I am Heather Sprague, author of Blood Fiercely Defended, and if you clicked on this video, you probably know what Destiel is. And if you don't, I highly recommend you watch Season 15, Episode 18 to see for yourself why we're all freaking out. This will contain spoilers for that episode and some things throughout the series of Supernatural, because I am going to start with a brief explanation and timeline of Destiel, and then I'm going to talk about the good things, the bad things, and some of the things that writers should take from Destiel. And then I'm going to wrap up with just my own opinion about some things like, is it even gay? Like most long-term fans of this show, fan seems like not a strong enough word, but like most long-term watchers of this show, I freaked out a bit. Okay, first off, what is Destiel? Destiel is the name of the long-hoped-for relationship between Castiel, the angel, and Dean Winchester, a character in Supernatural. Castiel first showed up in the series in Season 4, and sparks literally flew in Episode 1, Lazarus Rising, when he and Dean meet for the first time. It is generally held to be one of the most epic character introductions of the entire series. Now, this is a series that's been going on for 15 seasons now, and we have met characters like Death, the Four Horsemen, all the Four Horsemen, God, the Void. So it's a pretty badass introduction. Now, ever since this character was first introduced, people have been rooting for this relationship to become something more than just friendship. Now, this next little bit, as far as the timeline, is a bit of speculation on my part, just based off of things that actors have said, things that I've witnessed on rewatching the show. So basically, educated guesses. So in Season 4, Episode 1, Lazarus Rising, Castiel shows up. We're introduced to angels. It's huge. In so many ways. Now, when they first introduced the character Castiel, the writers did not plan for him, one, to stick around for very long. Misha has stated that several times, that he, has that deep voice that's kind of hard for him to do. He chose that voice in the assumption, in the knowledge, from what he was told, that the character was not going to be around for very long. So they weren't expecting anything long-term from this character, let alone long-term relationships. My dog's going crazy. Anyway, now, for the first couple years, I think what happened, because the fans, a lot of fans, on the very first meeting of Cass and Dean, immediately thought they would be in a romantic relationship, or at least hoped that they would be. Now, it seems like for the first few seasons that we have Castiel, so 4 through 6 or 7, let's say, the writers were still very much in the mindset of, no, this is just a friendship. They're very good friends, but there's nothing else to it. Now, I think that this slowly started to shift to when the writers saw how much the fans were rooting for this relationship to happen. I think they started to leave it kind of open-ended for themselves for the first few seasons. I don't think that they were actively writing the relationship to be romantic. I don't think they actively, at least for the first few seasons, were writing Cass and Dean's interactions to have any kind of romantic undertone. However, the lady that played Ruby, that is now married to Jared. I'm a fan, but I'm also bad with names. She, in an interview, stated that the writers, and this was many years ago, one, knew about Destiel, and two, 100% wrote with it in mind. Now, I do think that at the time, so probably, 5-6 years ago now, maybe a little less even, they were still writing it just open-ended, kind of just teasing the audience with it. I think they were just trying to, one, torture us. But I do think that at that time they weren't blatantly making it romantic. Now, I think that once we start getting into seasons 12, 13, again, mostly assumption on my part, they started to write it with romance involved. At least with the possibility of there being a romance that would develop in the future. Now, obviously, now, season 15, we know it's canon, it happened. I guess there is some debate about whether or not it actually happened, and I'll talk about that at the end. But Misha has come forth and said, no, Castiel said, I love you, and he meant it romantically. And there's also been some critique about Dean's reaction and how it was insufficient, but again, I'll save that for my opinion section at the end. So, there's the timeline-ish. Now, the good things that have come from this. I think that there is definitely a lot of good things that have come from this. One, showing that characters of this strength can be gay, I think is great. Now, as of me filming this, we have not yet seen, in totality, Dean's reaction. We see him trying to process it, but we actually don't see whether or not he's happy or sad about it. We see him basically just kind of being dumbfounded and trying to fully register what Cass has just said. Now, as a fan, obviously, I think that some of the good things that have come out of this is, one, it did eventually happen. Fans can now, through social media, internet, what have you, we can influence the outcomes of the shows that we watch. We can, influence the outcome of a story that we love. We can influence the outcome of a TV show. And, I mean, this has been true for a while, but to see something so pivotal for so many other reasons, which I'll go into in a moment, is really profound. It's something that the fans, most of the fans, not all of the fans, like this idea of this being a thing, but most of the fans were very emotionally invested in this relationship happening. And the fact that the writers listened and made it happen, I think, is fantastic. The other thing that I think is great is just the, having writers that are going to take in actors' chemistry into account, because, off screen these actors are great friends and they have the ability to portray such a kinship on screen as well. And that's something really great to see. Obviously, this is a great triumph for the fans that we were heard in this way, and it's also, of course, a great step forward for the gay community. And it's just all over, I think it's a good thing, but we are going to go into the bad of it. Now, the bad side of this is, and I've talked about this a little bit in another video of mine, is that men, unfortunately, aren't allowed a lot of emotional outlets. They're not supposed to talk about their feelings. They're not supposed to, express emotion, really, other than anger or hunger or horniness. And that's about it. That's their spectrum that they get to function with, publicly anyway. And, that's really unfortunate. I also think that people should have friends of multiple genders. I think girls should have girlfriends and guys should have guy friends and vice versa. And what we see happening a lot, now this is statistically predictable. If I can find where I found, someone did the math basically and found that because so many TV shows have predominantly all-male casts, or almost all-male casts, people hoping for these male characters to get into romantic relationships with each other is inevitable, actually. I mean, you see it with Sherlock as well. Which, who knows? But I do think that we need to recognize that having characters that started out as such good friends, they were really just written as really good friends, and then having them, you know, again, we'll see, having them turn out to be gay is kind of unfortunate because it takes away that occurrence of there just being two guys that were just really good friends. And that's something that I think, as far as male-male strong friendships, is something that needs to be depicted more. So, which leads me into what writers should take from this. So I would say, one, write strong friendships. That's something that just needs to happen. That's something that I definitely am doing with Anka and Lita. They are never going to be in a romantic relationship. They have never been in a romantic relationship. I mean, Lita is hardcore lesbian. She likes women, that's it. Anka and Lita have never been in a relationship. Anka has no romantic feelings for Lita. They're just really good friends. And that's something that, you know, we need male and male friendships like that as well, where they're just really strong and unbreakable friendships with no romantic undertones anywhere. That is something that we need to see, because we need to say that this is something that happens, that's healthy, that can occur. There can be strong friendships that don't result in romantic feelings. And this isn't just, obviously, same-sex relationships. I mean, opposite gendered relationships have had this issue forever. There's a guy and a girl that are just really good friends, everyone assumes that at some point they're going to fall in love. That's not always the case. And that's just something that, as writers, we need to make sure we depict, is strong friendships that don't have romance in them at all. There should be no romantic undertones to the friendships at all. Obviously, you're gonna have friendships that turn romantic, or romances that turn into friendships, and that's fine, but I do think that we need to make a point of showing strong friendships that stay strong friendships. Now, the other thing I do think that we writers need to take into account, or rather learn from this, is your fan base. So, you know, the fact that the fans chose this occurrence, chose this outcome, is huge. And the fact that everyone's so happy about it, seemingly, I'm sure there's a small part of the fandom that's like, get over it, it'll be fine. So, writers, especially if you're writing a series, taking your fans' hopes and desires into account. Now, you can, you know, do 11-year burn if you want to be that cruel. That's up to you. But I do think that taking in our fans' hopes and strong desires is an important thing to do. Now, my opinions on all of this. One, I think the writers handled it really well. I think that having it play out for so long was a benefit. I do wonder though, because, you know, like I said, is it gay? We see angels, we see celestial entities. They are possessing a vessel. We know that Castiel is, you know, possessing, you know, homegrown white picket fence dad is what he's in. You know, we've seen his daughter and how amazing she's turned out, and we've also seen angels go from possessing a female body to possessing a male body. Now, I think it is kind of hinted at that the angels are a little gendered, but I don't think it's ever been confirmed that they actually are male-female. They could be gender neutral. I don't know. That's not something that's really talked about. So, is that something that's going to come up? I doubt it. We only have a couple episodes left. I don't think there's time for them to go into that kind of discussion. Unless it's when Sam and Dean are having a heart-to-heart and Sam goes, wait, but is it gay? I don't know. Now, apparently people aren't fully satisfied or confused with Dean's reaction. Now, here's the thing. We've seen that Dean is unbelieving of love when it's in his direction. Whenever someone says, like at some point early in the seasons, Dean talks about how taking care of Sam is his job. That's my job. I take care of you. And Sam replies with, what do you think my job is? At which point Dean goes, what? I'm dramatizing that. But basically it never occurred to Dean that Sam would look out to him to the same extent that Dean looks after Sam. So I do think that if someone, especially someone that has seen him go through everything he has gone through, I don't know that he would react in any other way. I think basically he is going to be dumbfounded. He's going to have to process for a hot minute there. And we'll see what his full reaction is. We have a couple days before we find out what his complete reaction is, at least at the time that I'm filming this. So, we'll see. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm very excited and terrified to see how the series ends. I mean, I don't think I've ever been involved with a series longer than this one, to be honest. I did not know about it when it first started, but I caught up pretty quick. And I have watched the entire series at least 3 or 4 times at this point. At this point, it's a toss-up what has more view time. Supernatural or the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And yes, that math does check out. I looked it up because I stopped counting how many times I watched Lord of the Rings, this trilogy, in high school when I was cresting 100. And then I got the extended edition. Mind you, I graduated high school like 11 years ago now, so. So, what do you think of Destiel? Are you happy that it's finally canon, or are you one of the people that doubt whether or not it is canon? How do you think Dean is going to react in the next episode? What do you think the series finale is going to be? Do you think it is canon? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, those comments, likes, and subscribes are always wildly appreciated, and I hope to see you in the next chapter. Thank you so much for watching.